All right, I'll start. I know you guys have a lot of other to go through. So for the presentation. So again, my name is Ruben Jeffrey. I'm a partner with Kingston Ross Pasnock, and our firm is the auditor for the Métis Nation of Alberta. What I've done is we've prepared a slide presentation, very similar to prior years, and I'll just walk through it. And the first thing I want to do is thank everyone. This is a big process to get the statements together. These are your financial statements. They're not my financial statements. And so, we'll walk through them. All right? So the first slide, I'll hit, maybe it's this here. Okay. Our first slide is the revenue slide. And if we take a look at the revenue, we can compare the revenue. Total revenue for the March 31st, 2023 fiscal year end is $168 million. And the last fiscal year end, which is March 31st, 2022, is $83 million. This graph is great. I really like this because it shows you the total increase going back to March 31st, 2019. So in 2019, it was $43 million. So that's obviously a significant increase. The next slide, the second slide is a pie chart showing the various categories of the funding. By category, and we kind of walk through the biggest program. And one of the things you're going to find with that set of financial statements, it's 144 pages, and there's a lot of programs in the statements. Okay, so what we've done is we've kind of highlighted the largest programs. The largest program is, and you can see it on the slide chart, is for $42.493 million. And this is the Replacement Reserve Department. And this is a result of a funding arrangement with Métis Urban Housing, Métis Capital Housing. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, just a quick point. Could you tell us what page you're on so we're all on the same page? It's first time for us, for a lot of us, to see these financial statements. So we want to follow you along, but we don't know what page you're on, and I'm just getting a little bit confused as to your presentation.
Yeah, I'm actually not on a specific page of the financial statements because it's 150 pages, and I didn't want to walk through it each page individually. I'd love to, but I know everyone doesn't like to spend that much time on accounting as I do. So what I'm doing is I'm just doing highlights, okay? So there's programs within the financial statements, and I'm just highlighting some of the bigger ones, all right? So the biggest one is the Replacement Reserve Department, and again, that's at $42.493 million. The second largest one is the Early Learning and Child Care Development Department, which is $17.385 million. The third largest one is, and you can see it on the pie chart that's on the screen.
Is your presentation the same as what we have in front of us, or is it different?
The presentation that's on the screen, this is just what I'm working off of. I have the exact same financial statements that you have, of 143 pages, but what I'm doing is I'm just highlighting the certain programs. So I'm not going from page to page throughout the whole financial statement. There's just too much information to do that. All right? So the next biggest program is the Indigenous Community Infrastructure Program, which is $17.3 million. We then have the Housing Department. You can see it on the pie chart, which is $12.871 million. Probably the reason, and the primary reason why I didn't go through all the other programs, is we have 109 pages and programs that make up the $56 million of programming, okay? So some of the programs have $5,000 worth of funding. Some of them have $10,000 worth of funding. So this is why I think it's important to really highlight the larger programs, okay? I'll go to the next slide. The total expenditures for the fiscal year is $161.5 million. So you can see the comparison to prior years. Last year was $78 million. The year before was $79 million. And so the revenue is really correlated closely with the expenditures, okay? So that's one of the things when you take a look at it, and I mentioned on the previous that the total revenue was 168 million. Well, the total expenses are 161 million dollars.
Hi, Ruben.
Yeah.
Over here.
Oh, hey, how are you?
Jim Cardinal. Good. I just, it says there 168 in thousands, and yet you were speaking in millions.
Yeah.
So it really confused a few of the people here. So just that last slide.
Yeah.
Okay, at top left it says in thousands, and then you're talking about millions. I think that's. Can you explain that better? So,
sure. So what we've done is, if we put all the zeros on there, that would take up too much of the screen. So in all of the columns, 161, that's in millions. The next one is 78, and this is on the expenses chart. This is in millions. So all of these numbers include 3 zeros after the end of them, okay? All right. Next page, next slide. This is the expenditures by category. So what we've done is we've gone through and we've done an analysis for everyone to say, of the expenditures, of this 161 million, so again, should have 000 at the top, how is that broken down? Biggest component is $145 million was spent on program cost, variety of program costs. Again, we've got 120 different programs within the financial statements, so it's broken down in there. Wages, $12.7 million, and travel is $2.8 million. Next page is the total operating surplus on a 5-year comparison. So if you take a look at the March 31st, 2023 fiscal year end, the Métis Nation of Alberta had a surplus of $6.7 million. Last year there was a surplus of $4.1 million, and the year before it was $2.1 million. So as you can see, the surplus has been increasing significantly over the last little while. Now what we've got is we've got a few charts showing some of the specific departments so that there's a little bit of a comparison for you. The first one is the core operations. The total funding in the core operations or revenue is $10.9 million versus the expenses of $4.1 million. So this is where the surplus has occurred for Métis Nation of Alberta. The next department is the framework department. This funding has been pretty static over the years. It hasn't changed at all. $1.498 million in revenue and expenses for each fiscal of the last 5 fiscal years. The governance department is the next one. The governance funding this year is $9.2 million, which is the same as the March 31st, 2022 fiscal year. It is an increase over the previous 3 years. The next slide is a summary of the salaries. The total salaries for the fiscal year ended March 31st, 2023 is $12.7 million compared to 2022, which in the year there was $8.8 million. You can see the increase in salaries. Again, it correlates pretty closely with the new funding arrangements that have occurred over the last 5 years. The next slide is a travel. This one is always a little bit skewed because of COVID. Obviously, in a couple of the years, there was no travel. In this past fiscal year, is $2.8 million in travel versus $488,000 in last year and $305,000 the year before. The next page is one that I find, which is a very, I think, a nice, interesting one, is that this breaks down the funding, the 3-year funding comparison by source, and this breaks it down by the federal government, provincial government, and other sources. So the federal government is 96% of the funding for the Métis Nation of Alberta, 95% last year, and 93% the year before. The next slide is the total revenue recognized over the last fiscal years. And really the thing I want to point out here is that the total revenue recognized this year is at $168 million. Total funding that has been deferred from this year to next year is $42.8 million compared to last year, where last year we had $83 million of funding recognized and there was $88 million of funding deferred. And that's my presentation.
All right, thank you very much, Ruben. I think there's probably some questions. I'm not sure if the chair people want to come up here and get a motion first, or how you guys want to do it.
We'll do your job.
All right, let's roll. Who was first?
Donna Sinclair Gullion, Region 5, District 21, Lesser Slave Lake. I don't know where else you want me to identify from. Ruben, is there, in order for me to, I'd like to look at your report, like the visuals from your report, and I have difficulty navigating through websites. But could you tell us where we could go to see your report? Like just the visuals. Like I love the charts and I'm a numbers person, so I'd like to look at them some more. Like especially the revenues and the expenses, the comparison.
So we always do post the full approved audit on our website.
Okay. Where on your website? Like, would I look for Ruben's name or?
No. It would be. I can't remember off the. There's a tab on the website that says like finance or reports,
Okay.
and then you can click on it, and it'll come live once we register these with the society.
And I'll see it all in color like we did
Yeah,
today.
you'll see the full audit there. Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Yep.
Mike Chet.
I want the visuals. I've got the report.
Go ahead.
Over here.
So what we're going to do here is ask for a motion to...
Brian.
So what I'm going to do is, what we do with all our reports is we have the floor, the assembly, put a motion on the floor to accept the reports, and then you guys can debate it afterwards. So I need a motion. I'm not sure what you were doing, Alan. I just seen you on number one. Were you going to make a motion?
No, I have a question.
Yeah, we can do the questions after.
Melanie Omenhio, Region 4. For the sake of getting on with business, I move to pass the financial report.
Thank you, Melanie Omenhio. I need a seconder, please.
Colette Putcher, Region 4. I second that.
Thank you. All right, discussion. Can we get the portable mic over here? We have a young lady here on the left-hand side. Oh, she's coming. Katie's coming with the mic. And then we'll go, so we're going to start off with Linda. Sorry, Jeff, but she's a little older than you.
Yes, ma'am. I mean, yes, sir.
I'll let Brian get away with that. My name is Linda Boudreaux Samaganus. I'm from St. Paul. And I just wanted to ask a question here on page 29, schedule of salaries and travel expenses. You've got in Region 2, Dwayne Zaraska, and you've got 88 or 83,000. He's been on medical leave for a year and a half or 2 years. He hasn't even been in the office. So are we paying him a full salary to not work?
No. So this would be prorated. So he hasn't been off for a year and a half or 2 years. I think it's been about since March of this year. So this would almost be close to accumulating his full 22-23 annual salary.
He's been off on sick leave for whether it was your long-term or short-term or whatever. He has been on sick leave. He has not been present in our office or representing us as citizens.
Mm-hmm. No, I know Dwayne did take some leave, throughout the last term. I know officially he's been on sick leave since March. So this would be what he was paid. That is what he was paid. And he would never be paid if he was on leave. He's only paid when he was considered working and supposed to be doing what he's supposed to be doing. So he wasn't paid when he was on leave.
Okay.
Thanks, Linda.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Mike 1, we'll go to Mike 2. Your name, last name, and where you're from there, Mr.? No,
Oh, me?
I know who
Okay,
you are, for the record.
Alan Boucher, Zone 1.
Thank you.
I just have a question regarding the report. I'm curious, where do I find for expenses? I'm sure the M&A has outsourced some programming, and so I'm just curious, where would I find that info? Because I'm sure that there are contracted agencies out there that M&A has used.
Yeah, definitely. We do in some cases use contractors or others to deliver programs.
Where would I find that in the reports?
Generally speaking, there's an expense item called professional fees. That can be contractors, that can be lawyers, that can be accountants, that can even in some cases be our knowledge keepers or those type of things, depending on how we got to tie it back to the reporting for the grant. So if there's something specific you'd like, I'm happy to chat with you after, and if there's something specific about Region 1 or whatever, I can try to dig in my memory or go back to the office and give you an answer.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Mike 2, two times.
Thank you, Brad.
Jeff was there, and Mel's been standing, and then Mike 3. Go
Thank
ahead.
you, Chairman.
State your
just
name,
a,
please,
Just a
for
quick
the
question.
record.
Jeff
State-
Shalfo, Zone 5.
Thank you.
And just a question to the auditor. I just want to go back to your charts on the surplus. And I just wanted to know if that's the accumulated surplus or just a surplus for 2023.
I don't have, sorry. I don't have a remote control to pull up the charts, so if someone wanted to do that, we could pull it up. The $6 million is just for this year. That's the surplus for this March 31st, 2023 fiscal year. About $20 million.
Thank you. Mike 2 again. Miss Mel, you name and such, where you're from. For the record.
Melanie Omenhio, Region 4. So, Ruben, I recognize that these statements are a report on what money came in and what money went out. So I get that, but the question, first off, I want to let you know that lady earlier wants your PowerPoint presentation, so please make that available to people.
Yeah, we will. Oh, sorry.
But what I want to
Yeah, we
ask
will.
you is now that we're going from the Métis Nation of Alberta Association to the Otipemisiwak government, now that we're getting rid of regions 1 through 6, many of the regions over the years, for a variety of whatever has gone on, owe the Métis Nation money, or they have, we have stakehold in their properties because some of them were co-purchased together or co-signed together. And now that this is all changing and there's money transfers everywhere, how will that get resolved in what we're going to do? And how is that going to be reflected in the documents that you're presenting to us?
You know, that's a great question. And I mean, that's why part of the reason there's a transition committee to go through and go through all this. And honestly, I don't have all the answers for that. You know, my role is as the auditor. So my role is to really take a look at everything and make sure everything is accounted for in relation to the funding arrangements and the agreements that are in place and that sort of thing. That's a great question, and I know I've had a little bit of discussion about it, but at this stage I don't have the answer for you. Sorry.
Thank you very much on that one. Mike 3, name, last name, and where you're from.
Brenda Burke Stratichuk, Region 1, Lac La Biche.
Thank you.
Ruben, can you maybe just, okay, so when you look on page 70 and you look at the expenses and you see the professional fees there.
I missed which page you're looking at?
70. Ruben, you should know that by heart.
I don't
It's
know
professional fees.
I don't know every page off the top of my head, though.
Professional fees.
Yeah. Page 70.
Yep.
Yes.
The top one is professional fees.
Yeah.
In 2022,
Yeah.
there's 2 million, or is there more zeros added that we're not seeing? Is that 2 million?
No,
What
no,
is that?
this is all of the zeros, okay?
That's all the zeros?
Yeah,
And so then it jumped to 8
Yeah.
in 2023.
yeah.
Can you just explain that just a little bit?
Do you want to
Sure.
take this one?
Yeah, so this is, page 70 is the Schedule 41 for the interim fiscal financing arrangement. We went from $2.6 million in professional fees in year ended 2022 to 8.845697 in 2023. So like I said, professional fees are anything from, can be advertising, can be lawyers, can be accountants, can be consultants, can be public relations, communications firms, marketing, all those things that went into negotiating the second self-government agreement, all the things that went into the ratification of the Constitution, the development of the Constitution, all the community meetings, all the travel, all those type of things, and others are included in that figure.
So Ruben, are there any other professional fees in all these pages? All the professional fees are on page 70. Are there, you know how you have different programs, so does, like, let's say Métis Child and Family Services have their own set of professional fees?
Oh yeah, there's professional fees in other departments. As
Right.
Aaron mentioned, the professional fees isn't
Just
the
that one.
accountant, right? It's not, it's a whole variety of other, whoever's covered in the program,
That's right.
in accordance with the funding arrangement.
So professional fees could be in a number of ways on a number of other pages.
Yeah.
They're not all totaled in this interim. In this interim one, though,
In this one department.
is this for the whole year? Because I'm not understanding what interim. So is that the whole year?
Yeah.
Yes.
So the interim fiscal
I'm
finance.
asking, Garen, I know, thank you very much, but I'm asking.
Okay. The financial statement that you're looking at,
Yeah.
the program is called the interim fiscal financing arrangement. The first column is all the revenue and the expenses
Yeah.
for the fiscal year ended March 31st, 2023. The second column that has 2022 at the top, this is for the revenue and the expenses for the fiscal year ended March 31st, 2022. And that's the full amount. There's no additional zeros or anything like that.
So Ruben,
Yeah.
just give me a rough estimate of how much professional fees would have been for this past year, from 2022 March to 2023. Give me I'll take it.
You know, the problem is I don't want to give you the wrong answer. And I don't know off the top of my head, because you got to take a look. The financial statements are 145 pages. I can go back to my office and I could do a summary. I can certainly do that, but I don't have the information right on my
So
hand.
Ruben, you can sympathize with my position where
Yeah.
I come here and 5 minutes before you're going to speak, I have to look at it and try to figure it out. So I'm just asking you for a ballpark figure.
I don't want to give you the wrong number. The thing about my role as the auditor,
Right?
I look at a macro level, I look at everything to make
Right.
sure they're in accordance with the funding arrangements.
Yes?
Right? I make sure that the expenditures are coded correctly.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I can't anticipate what the question was. If I knew you were going to ask me that question, I would have had it right here and I'd say it's XXXXX.
Ruben,
But
I would think that that's a pretty general question coming from a citizen of how much we've spent in the year on legal fees.
Well,
I know my guy tells me
so-
how much I've spent on certain, but we'll put that aside because you don't seem to know. I'm okay with that.
yeah, well,
I
which,
guess the
which
other
is fine.
question-
I
yeah.
mean, honestly,
One more question for you, Miss
Yeah.
number
Yeah,
3.
I only have one. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
I'll just take this interim,
Yeah.
okay? And all the other pages where there's legal fees. Anywhere else, in taking all of these in account, how many dollars have been spent on legal fees for lawsuits?
again, no clue off the top of my head.
Okay.
I could go and take a look at that and I can go through the books and get that specific answer for you.
No.
But again, you know,
You've,
there's...
you've kind of answered my question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mike, number 2.
Yeah, Jeff Southwell again here from Zone 5. I'm not sure if you have the answers or not, but I'll ask anyway. On page 14 of our financial statement, in 2022, Métis Urban Housing of Alberta owed the Métis Nation $32 million, and Capital Housing Corporation $9 million, about $41 million or $41.5 million that was owed to the nation. In 2023, they owe zero. I'm just wondering, where is this $41 million indicated in the revenues?
So there's a separate department of this, and I could check what page it is, but the money came into Métis Nation, and then the money was paid out to the Métis Nation Trust. And the trust was set up specifically for Métis Urban Housing, Métis Capital Housing.
So I can probably elaborate on that a little bit. 5 or so years ago, we came to a settlement with CMHC on underfunding of Métis Urban and Métis Capital homes, and particularly the ones under Métis Capital that had transferred over. And so we reached a settlement of that $41 million approximately. So the settlement dollars were deposited to Métis Urban, Métis Capital. The agreement was government to government through the M&A because that was part of our table of negotiations. And then those two come together. We've created a housing trust where that money will be held in perpetuity, and the interest portions will be drawn down upon by Métis Urban and Métis Capital, so that we reserve as much as that $41 million original settlement, yet still doing the renovations we can with the money for as long as possible.
And the page is page 60.
Thank you for that. I'm going to mic 2 and then to mic 1. Your mic 1. Go ahead, your mic 2, yep.
Okay.
Now, your name, please, and last
Good
name.
afternoon, Sylvia Johnson, Region 6.
Thank you.
No, just supposed to have 1. Region 6. I would like to know, has the money increased? I see there's increases everywhere, but where there isn't increase that I see is the people that I've talked to have only been receiving $60 a day to $100, $120 a day to come to these meetings. I would like to know if the regions were increased from $5,000 like they've been getting for the last 30 years that I know of to attend and bring people. I'd like to know if that's been increased, like salaries and everything else. Yeah. 650 people are here. A lot of us come on our own dime and be reimbursed, and some are getting $60. That is not right. Increases everywhere. Then I suggest you increase bringing the people here. You know that the gas is increased, the food is increased. We need an increase. Do you hear that? Increase the people.
So last year we did increase it from 5,000 to 20,000, and we increased it to 20,000 this year as well. But the issue is there's more people coming to the assembly to divide the 20,000 by. So I think your point is heard that we need to find more resources to bring people to the assembly. I mean, that's a very clear direction. We're doing the best we can. Like I said, we run all these different programs. We pull from everywhere to try and get the funding to have these assemblies and make them as best as we can for everyone. So that's been the focus. We did increase it from 5 to 20. If, you know, next year with the districts and hopefully finalizing the final fiscal arrangement, we can do more. That's all we can do is try. We're not trying to give people as little money as possible. If we could give everybody pay for everything, we would, but it's just not feasible right now.
So you just get your $60, Sylvia. Mike 1.
Audrey Kent, CMA, CPA CMA, Region 4, Edmonton. I just wanted to make a quick little point of order with these financial statements. You guys are putting Ruben on the hot seat a little bit, but please keep in mind that he is an independent auditor. He comes in and he looks at the stuff after the fact. He follows the Canadian audited financial standards, etc. There's a number of rules that he has to follow. The specific questions that you're answering, he can't necessarily answer because he's looking at it from a summary point of view per se. They go in and they look for fraud and they look for all that other stuff. But the specific questions that you guys are answering, he can't necessarily answer. That's more along the lines of the head office, right? Like, do you want to know what the legal fees are? Okay, well, that's fine. But he's not going to have the answer for that because he's not looking at that kind of stuff. He's looking for the policies and the procedures and all of the stuff being in order. Thank you.
Ruben is so pleased you unspoke, Audrey. Audrey must be a financer or something. I know she is, I'm just kidding. Mike 3 and then Mike 2.
Hi, Ruben. Karen Collins, Region 2. I don't have a question, so I'm not going to put you on the spot, Ruben. I have a suggestion or a forward-looking thought. So many of us have been attending these assemblies for years. Many times when it comes to our financial report to the citizens on how well managed our money is. We're going into a new government. We're going into a process and a place where we're not even sure yet. We're not sure how it's going to look, I should say, at the end of the day. I'm going to put a suggestion that all of the candidates, including myself, that are going to be on the ballot, that we think about some of these pieces so that when we do our financial reporting through the Auditor General process that's in the Constitution, that we think about some of these pieces that for years our people come to the microphone and they say, why did I just get this information? What about this? What about that? Many of us have heard a lot of these questions the same. So if we're going forward in a good way to a new place, perhaps what we need to do is think about some of these pieces that cause us a bit of pain sometimes when we come to the assemblies and we put people like Ruben, and many of us know that auditors do the job that they're there to do. The other answers comes from different places. But now that we know that and we've learned that, we're 95 years old. If we've learned things in 95 years, this is our opportunity on a go-forward basis with a new government to put processes in place that will help address some of these pains that we've been feeling for the past 30 years. And so I'm not going to do that as an ordinary resolution. I'm just putting it on the floor during this time because finances will always be a place that people are going to ask questions from, and that good and transparent and accountable governments should be able to respond to. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Karen. Mike 2.
Check, check, 1, 2. Hello, my name is Luke Goche, St. Albert District. I just had a quick question and then a follow-up question. For page 96, for the Métis Youth Cultural Programs, is the entire funding for the entire province for youth cultural programs, is it at 180? And then the salaries and benefits, is it sitting at 50 for the whole province?
No, so amongst the different programs that you'll see, we always do our best that we can to build in things for culture and for youth. The big youth program is Urban Partnerships for Indigenous People. It's on, I don't know what page. It's called UPIP, and there's one UPIP infrastructure, but this one's called UPIP. Next page. What page number? Page 97.
Okay.
Oh no, that's UPIP infrastructure. There's another UPIP one. That's the UPIP infrastructure was for the youth building. So I guess what you're saying, what does the funding look like? So we got that 1.6 million for the building, and then just over 2 million in direct funding and supports. Then plus we have The sport endowment I'm going off the top of my head. I'm not like Ruben. Maybe.
And
I'll
this
make
is all allotted directly towards youth programs?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then my follow-up question, is there going to be an opportunity for Métis dancers such as myself in each community to be able to have a job for themselves to teach and preserve our dancing culture? Because right now, it's kind of hard. We have to, you have to kind of do it out of the kindness of your heart, and lots of people can't make travel or sacrifice time off work to make sure that we can stay up to date with these jigging lessons, and especially if you want to do more than one a week, right?
Yeah.
I was just wondering if there's going to be more focus on dancing and culture youth programs.
So
for funding.
Yeah. So right now, you know, we run, you know, these 100 and however many programs, right? One of the things that is happening as we transition into self-government is we're going to get, we talked a little bit about the interim fiscal financing arrangement and on the professional fee side of things. So what that funding is it's flexible. So right now the big push is on governance and getting our community together and moving that forward. When we finalize our self-government agreement, what's going to be finalized with that is called a final fiscal arrangement. In that final fiscal arrangement, will be on top of the programs and grants and stuff that we're doing, which will allow us to say, all right, where do we want to focus all of our resources? Is it culture? Is it environment? Is it a mixture? Is it on youth? And that'll be more self-determined, because right now the reality is that when you live on grants and contributions like the M&A does, and I'll give the example of strategic planning. It's very important to do your strategic planning and business plans, and that's great, and to get direction from our assembly and our citizens. But under the current system and when we're accessing grants, the reality is if Government of Alberta or Government of Canada is putting out a grant, 9 times out of 10, that's their priority. That's their priority. And we're applying for their money that are going to say, we want you to do X, Y, and Z. So that's kind of where we're at now, but moving in the future, I would be really shocked if youth and culture weren't a pillar and a cornerstone of how our new government decides to take direction and use its resources.
Yeah, just a comment to add. I remember growing up myself. I'm only 28 right now, but I started jigging when I was only 9 years old. And I remember going to competitions. There was 8, 9 different dance groups. And sometimes it feels like my group is the only one left, and I want to bring us back to where we were.
Hey, and thank you guys, because you guys put on an amazing show and you represent Alberta very well, so thank you for that.
That's so awesome. This young man gets up and advocates for culture and youth. So that was awesome. Mic number 2, Mr.
Thank you. Thank you, Luke, for your presentation from the youth folks. You just heard the youth. Me, I'm getting up as an elder. Yes, Brian.
Your name, and for the record, we need your name. Everybody knows you, but we still need it for the record.
My name is Joe Blind, and I know a lot of you guys know me. I'm an elder now. I'm 81 years old, but I want to speak from an elder point of view. A lot of us, our elders, are here. We've been coming for many, 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 many years. This is my 51st annual assembly I've attended consecutively, and I know what happened in the past. I want to tell you, my friends, we've come to the crossroads where we're being asked to accept something. The financial report, I can't even comment on it because I'm too illiterate. I don't have no education to decipher this stuff in here or even begin to understand it. You gave it to me about 15 minutes ago, and you expect me to accept it. All that stuff you wrote in there looks good. I'm proud that we have money and everything like that. But you, my friend, you were asked how much the expenses were, and you stood out there and pretend you didn't know. You're a professional, man. Don't do that to us. If we're going to do a constitution, we need honest people to help us and give us the right answer. You didn't give an answer. You just said, I'll have to look in my books, and yet you've been working on them from the day we hired you. So, my friends, that's what I'm upset about. I'd like to accept this report. I think it's great. I'm not going to say it's wrong or somebody stole, but to tell you the truth, I don't even know what's in it. And if I was to approve it and say when it's passed, I'm going to feel guilty. I passed something, I don't know what the heck is going on. Also, my friends, we're going into a constitutional process where we're going to change our life forever once we change this country. And we don't even have a real understanding of our finances. You haven't done a good job, my friend. This should have been better. You knew you were coming here. You were a professional. You were hired. So tema gewa meni tema skota matego. Kai kunta kagiaskim go no. Dota moktanchis we swim go ya no soma. Kage papik squata kumaga kage pik sama go ya. Yeah, you 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes before come on skota kini go ya. So my friends, I thank you for listening to me, but remember, I cannot help you, my friend. I do not call you a liar or crooked, but I can't accept something I don't understand. Merci, can I ask him no?
Thank you, Joe. I'll go to Mike 1 and then Mike 3. Go ahead, Mike 1, your name and where are you from?
Good afternoon. My name is Norman Wanage. The questions and the things I've got to say, I want to direct at Aaron Barner. Aaron, I've got situations here that I want to bring to your attention. It's concerning the housing, in capital housing, urban housing, and there's been situation, Aaron, that I've had opportunity to call your office, and I've yet to get a call from you. I'm not going to try to be ignorant here or put you on the spot, but I need some answers from you as to why there's nepotism that's going on. Certain people are favored. You know, there's lateral violence. I'm an elder. I don't have to be spoken down to when I try to address something. And that goes on. These are things I've been trying to take up with you and never had the opportunity to do that. It's unfortunate I have to bring this up to you and put you on the spot now. I didn't have any desire to do this. So, and there is some people that have too compliant with, you know, or complacent with their, you know, their positions.
All right.
Some people that are there that have a job, yes, I agree with that. But if you got a job, do your job. Don't just sit there and put in time and collect a paycheck. Because some of our needs are not met. And there's a time maybe after this conversation I'm having, I'd like to meet up with you personally.
Sure, no problem, and I just hope for the record you can make sure that the words you're saying, you're not talking about me.
Not you directly, no,
Okay.
but there's changes in the organization that have to be made.
No, I'm happy to meet anytime.
Okay,
All right,
you.
sir, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wanich. Mike 3, your name and where you're from.
My name's Regina Glenn, and I'm from Fort McMurray. So this interim physical financing agreement, I just wanted to go back to those professional fees for a second. So there's $6 million, we're going to do some round numbers here, over and above what we spent last year, which, I'm sorry, I don't know your name. You said included like lawyers and a variety of things, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so I just added up the professional fees from the rest of these costs. Why is there an extra $3,462,000 in fees? Shouldn't it be all put together?
So how our finances work is anything that says schedule on the top is a program. Each one of those programs ties back to a grant with the federal, provincial, or other organization. So each one of those under the federal government, for example, will get, let's just call it consultation dollars, right? So under that consultation funding agreement, you're eligible for salaries and benefits, travel, administration, and professional fees. Those are your 4 items that you can claim against. That agreement shows the money that came in and how the money was spent, and that's for that department. The IFFA, the interim fiscal finance arrangement, that is one agreement onto itself, separate from, say, the other 100 and some odd ones. So that's why it's collected there. That's why those other ones are segregated into those. So it's not a roll-up of that IFFA is not a roll-up of all of our funding. That's just one out of 120 some odd programs.
So there's, I don't know how to, like,
Yeah, so based on...
$20 million in professional fees being spent?
Yeah, so whatever you're seeing marked as a professional fee has been spent on those things I talked about earlier, whether it be lawyers, whether it be accountants, whether it be marketing, whether it be external contractors, whether it be the company called One Feather that did the online voting for the referendum, or the cost of postage and the cost of to print all the ballots that went out for the referendum. All that stuff is put into those things like professional fees.
So, just a suggestion, I guess. Maybe that should be broke down into smaller portions so we understand and we can read for ourselves how that money is being spent.
Sure.
Because it's a fair amount of money that it just says professional fees and there's no explanation as to
Yeah, and I think, you know, part of it is, the difficulty is that there is so many programs, and so we have to balance between what does the contract say on what our audit needs to look like. So when we're applying for funding and we're getting funding, there's a physical contract that our signing authorities sign off, and there's reporting templates that say, okay, for this funding, we need to see, some will just say program costs. You know, you'll just see one line, program costs. Well, that's how we're coded into that program and how we're reporting on it. So I can understand why you're saying it needs to be broken down. If we could break it down into things like postage or marketing and communications or those things, in places where we could, we have. In the ones where the contracts are saying they just want to see one line professional fees, that's how we're doing it. So I think there's probably some dialogue that we can have with the new government, and when we have an Auditor General, that people can say, okay, how much did you spend on postage on the referendum, for example? And that would be something that could, you know, a question be asked and there'd be a report or something filed.
Okay, so what I want to do, Mike 3, is you've had 3 different points, so thank you very much, and I'm going to move along, and then if you need to really come back again, you can come back again. So I'm going to go to the roaming mic there, the young lady here with the elders that gets this roaming mic. Go ahead, give us your name and where you're from.
My name is Esther Auger. I am from Region 5. I don't have no beef right now with any money or dollar signs. But recently, during the COVID, my grandson graduated from being an accountant, I don't know, some kind of a degree. He didn't have a proper graduation, but watching him attend school and looking at his book, sometimes we brainstorm and stuff like that, very difficult. I mean, you look at those things on the computers working on, like, I mean, it's just like Chinese writing in there, you know. But anyway, what I want to say right now is when we traveled up here from Slave Lake, traveled with my brother and my sister-in-law, we come through Athabasca and coming up that hill, and I remember my mom and dad, long time ago, they used to come to assemblies. They would have a tent, a grub box, and a bedroll. And they had a little bit of money. But they would come to the assembly to support, and they believed in accomplishment. They believed in a dream. Something is going to happen. We will get through this. We will get through this. That was their belief. Now, I'm here with 3 of my brothers and myself. My sister's married Treaty, so I'm the only one that didn't and refused to. But anyway, I'm very honored to have the parents that I had, because when they went with their bedroll, grub box, and the tent, they were determined to give support to the president at that time. I think it was Stan Daniels at that time at the Athabasca Assembly. Sometimes they would get ration, and you know what? Their teapot was, I don't know if you remember their 4-pound jam or 4-pound peanut butter. They put a little wire over it, put it over the fire, and make tea. Now, and you know what? They never complained. They never complained. All I heard today is big complaints. Oh, this number's not right. This number's not right. You know what? I don't trust a lot of people. You know, I don't really trust. I've been oppressed all my life. Now I'm starting to trust a little bit, and I think that needs to be happening, is to put a little bit of trust. That's so we can move on, because we'll never move. We've been spinning an association for how many years? How many tires did we wear out? You know, like, we need to move on. We're talking here about where did this money go? How much did you give to that one? And you know what? Long time ago, my parents and a lot of other members, Métis citizens, never got any money. They didn't complain, and they worked hard. And what do we do? Some of us don't even work, and still we're complaining, oh, we want money from the Métis Nation to pay us to go to the assembly. I love you, Métis citizens. We can do this together. We can walk together. But if we're going to start fighting and start tearing down, chunk by chunk, chip by chip, shave by shave, we'll break it. It'll go down. Do we want it to go down? You know what my scary thought today? When Audrey leaves office and Dan leaves office, somebody else comes in there, I'm scared. Really scared. What are they going to do? Are they going to keep everything rolling good? And if somebody wants to know finances, I'm sure there's an open door where you can go check and find out where this money is going and where it's coming from and where it's spent. Because most of the time, most places are documented. I learned lots during my grandson's school years, working on his degree. I talk to him, I look at his work, and and there's, you know what? Not all of us are going to be happy. No way. Like even in one organization, there's going to be people in there, maybe even 5 of them. They're not going to all agree. Now, can you satisfy the 5? Never. Nobody is ever going to be satisfied. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is oppression. We've been oppressed lots, and there's oppressors out there that are oppressing. And I'm not happy with that because we're looked down at. You know, we try and do something, and somebody looks down, even our own leaders, co-workers, office workers. You go into the office, do you get a greeting? How are you today? Are you okay? Come on in. Come and have tea with me. No, you don't get that. But anyway,
thank you, Esther.
I'm taking too much time here, but you know what? I love you guys and love each other. Sit down, hug each other. Damn it. Love you.
That was an awesome speech there, Esther. We got her together. I was there, by the way, for the rations and at the Beska. I remember that. So, Mike 1 and Mike 2 and Mike 3.
Hello. Jason Eckberg, Region 1.
Thank you.
Since these financial statements were just handed out, I was just wondering if there would be maybe a way we can set up a table and our auditors can be there to answer any questions for any individual who has anything on our financials, and maybe we table these financials till tomorrow morning. This way we can move on.
We have a motion on the floor. Are you trying to make an amendment, Mr. Eckberg?
Just to give clarity for whoever wants to have clarity and have some answers is all we're looking for, right?
So
it's up to the people.
So I got 2 choices. You actually put a proposal on the floor. You didn't make a motion. It's an idea. I heard a bunch of grumbles there, Jason. You must have heard them.
I'm good, yeah.
It's like, I don't know if you heard that.
Point of order.
Okay, yep, go ahead, Mel.
I was the mover of the motion, and I'm not willing to put it off.
That's it.
These are the financial records, whether we like them, whether we don't like them. This is what actually was spent. This was actually what came in. I'm not disagreeing that maybe Ruben can go somewhere and answer whatever questions people have, but we can't. The one thing about accounting, it's black and white. This is what's real. We can't change those figures. And if you want to come back and make the leaders accountable for what their decisions were, that's a different process. That's not in the acceptance of the financial document.
Thank you very much. Mover. I'm going to Mike 2. Your name and where you from?
So I'm Tanya Fayant, Region 2, District 12. So just maybe a comment for probably next year, I guess. There's a big disconnect, I think, from the citizens to the professional people that deal with the financials. So there's a whole process that goes through with this, right? And you can tell there's a disconnect and people don't understand them. So we really need to make sure that our people can understand them by giving them some sort of way to know the process, because he's not going to know any of the minute details of what went on. He takes the books and he closes them out, and then he goes through them, pinpointing a few different places to go through them. But he doesn't know the ins and outs. It's the administration or the affiliates that really know where our money went. So I think that before the audits happen again, there should be just a little bit of education for our people on how these are done, because unless you're working with them, you don't understand these, right? So there needs to be just some different process for people to understand how these things come about. They're just a bunch of numbers on papers for everybody else, right? So there's just should be something done.
You know, I was going to say, I think that's a great recommendation. You know, it's a massive document and it's a lot to ask, so thank you for that recommendation.
Thank you.
And just a second one. We had talked about competitions and stuff. So Métis Fest happens in June. I don't know. It would be my suggestion. We go to Batoche. Batoche has changed dramatically through the years. Batoche used to be all about competitions and stuff, and you'll find a lot of the locals don't even like going to it anymore because it doesn't have that degree of competition anymore. So like that young man was saying, it'd be actually nice to do a Batoche in Alberta, where it's happening right here with Métis Fest, and it's competitions and it's back to the people, and that's what I would like to see instead of us always traveling to Batoche, although it's good to go back to the homeland, but it'd be nice to do something bigger here.
Thank you. I will move to mic number 3.
Thank you, Brian. Brenda Burke, Stratachuk, Region 1.
Thank you.
I just in listening to some of the comments, while I appreciate the elder's comment with respect to, you know, us moving along, there is some reality to that, but there also, when you look at over $100 million and we only get this place to discuss our finances, I don't think it's too much to ask that people are able to be democratic and ask questions. I mean, that if you can't do that, you may as well not have a nation or have an Otipemisiwak as part. You've got to be able to give these people a chance to ask questions. That's my comment. But my question is on page 31, Ruben. You have expenses there, salaries and benefits. It went from 819 to 3 million the following year. Can you explain that a little bit to us? Ruben, can you explain a little bit to us? I want you to explain it.
Okay.
Ruben.
First thing I want to do is I want to explain my role.
Yeah.
Okay? Because I heard a question about what my role is. And so maybe it's okay if I take a couple of minutes to explain what my role is. All right? I am an independent auditor. I'm not an employee of the Métis Nation of Alberta. Okay? So I'm a partner in the accounting firm Kingston Ross Pasnuck. And what we do is we come in on an annual basis and we do an audit of the financial statements, of the internal controls of the organization. We go through and we look at expenditures. We look at expenditures, making sure that they're in accordance with the funding arrangements that they've been spent on. We go through and we look at the financial statements, okay? We look at the documents. We go and we look at checks. We go and we look at invoices. What we don't do is we're not the ones that write the checks. We're not the ones that do the agreements. Don't sign any agreements with the governments or anything like that. So it's really important to know I'm independent. So I work for you guys, okay? I work for the membership. And my role is to come in and make sure everything is correct, okay? That's my role. And if everything was not correct, and I've been on many, many audits where the information is not correct, then that's what I report to the organizations. It's important for you to know, your membership to know, that the financial information is correct. So my job is not to know how much is in the expense on page 82 of of professional fees. I'm sorry, but that's unfortunately not my job. I can go and check that, but there is $160 million of expenses in the organization. So I recognize, and I apologize for not knowing everything about every expense, but I can certainly go and do that because I do have access to all of the financial information. I don't have it up here with me right now, but I can go and research those things. Okay?
So are you able to answer that question at all?
Which question? Why did it go up that much?
Yeah, in 1 year it went up like a few million.
Well, look at what the revenue went up to. The revenue went from $4 million to $11 million. So I'm not exactly sure. I could go and take a look and say what individuals are in there, why did it increase, how many people are covered off in that. But I mean, you know, obviously there was a heck of a lot more programming that went on in that department.
So, Mike, I'm going to give you another question. You've had two so far, one more?
No, but so maybe Andrea,
Yes, yeah.
like Aaron, I know you're not the treasurer, but there's two of them. So and you're actually, okay, well, I don't know. There's a bunch of you up there. So
I tried to answer your question last time. You told me not to answer it. So.
I know, but I would like the opportunity for Ruben to answer it.
He just explained, people in the crowd explained, he's not going to be able to give you the details. I can talk to these numbers the best I can sitting in front of you at this podium with the audit. I'm the one positioned to do it. You don't want to, if you want me to answer the question, I'll answer it. If you don't want me to answer it, I won't.
No, I just didn't want you to have to answer it and then take away from the other people that are treasurers to answer it. I don't know. Don't you usually ask the treasurer the question?
You can ask the question to whoever you want, Brenda.
I don't know. Well,
who
Aaron,
are you asking the question
seriously.
to? Then, if you want me to answer it or not?
Sure, answer it.
Okay. So, Schedule 2 on page 31 is titled Core Operations. So, Core Operations is the only program in here, aside from actually the sport endowment, there's two of them, that don't have a single funding agreement attached to it. So what we do, out of all the funding agreements that come in, there's an allocation of it called admin. So admin dollars, they go into a central fund. So when you're seeing things that are in here, it's generally because they fall under the category administration. So that'll be an increase in administration staff. So for example, polling clerks for the referendum. You know, that may be one of the ones that's in there. So staff that are not tied directly to a specific program like fish health. They may work across many programs in an administrative function. So we've grown quite significantly again in the last year. And so that's the reflection that you're seeing there is just an increase in the number of people that are getting paid out of that department.
Okay, thank you.
Because I just would have thought that would have been under like governance and professional fees if you were looking at elections people, but that's okay. You answered it. Thank you so much, Aaron.
Thank you, Aaron. Mike 2 and then Mike 1.
Victoria Norris, Region 3. I motion that we accept the financial audited report as presented.
There's already a motion on the floor. Yeah. Are you calling question? Might be the accurate word. I'm not sure where you're going with this, Victoria.
I would like to just make a motion to accept the financial
there was a
audited
motion on the
reports.
floor, so there was discussion about the motion. So the next action would be calling question, if that's where your head's at.
Okay, that's where I'm going. I'm calling question.
And question's been called. All in favor of the motion, raise your hands, your yellow hands. All right, thank you. All those opposed? I don't see any. I left number 1 abandoned, so Mr. Number 1, I'm sorry, apologize. The motion's been carried.